Hey there, welcome to this episode, and as you can see we're going to start building patterns inside of the SP-404 MKII. Now the first thing I want to do while we're in our kind of standard sampling mode here is I just want to check our count-in and our metronome. So Shift and 10 is going to allow us to change our count-in measure or our recording mode, and they flick on and off the screen quite quick, so let me just run you through them. Shift and 10, count-in off, count-in 1 measure, count-in 2 measures, or count-in wait. Now this doesn't apply just to pattern sequencing, this is any record mode, so standard recording and resampling as well, and you can find out which one suits your method the best, whether you want like a 1-bar count-in or whatever it is. I like count-in wait because it means it's not going to record anything until I start hitting my pads and I want to play, so that's how I like to set it up. The other thing is Shift and 9, where we have metronome here, and we can make sure our metronome is off or on. I'm going to leave it off for a second, but that's how you access your metronome. Now we can go into pattern mode here by pressing pattern select, and you'll see we get this big pattern in the middle of the screen here to let you know what mode you're in. Our samples have disappeared, but any recorded patterns will be located here, and I've put one in just for now so that there was something here. This was a blank project and I just wanted something to show you what it looks like if you have a pre-recorded pattern. Now we want to create a new one, so I'm going to do record here. And anything that is flashing red, let's turn the metronome off again. Anything that is flashing red here is a free and empty space to record a new pattern. And of course, you can do that on a different bank. You can put that wherever you like. I'm going to choose pad 2 here. Pad 1 is obviously grayed out because that's what we've got. We've got something already recorded here. So let's do pad 2. That is going to open up this nice little pre-recording menu, and we can tweak a few parameters here. So let's say 84 isn't the BPM we want. We can tweak that with Control 1. Maybe 81 would suit us more. We can change our bar length, and we can go all the way to 64 bars. I'm going to stick with 2 for this particular episode. Strength is referring to the amount of quantization that is being applied as you record your pattern. So here I'm going to leave that at 100% just for this example. Obviously, if you don't want the quantize applied, you can reduce this or turn it off completely. In terms of the mode, quantize here where we have grid, with our push and enter button, we can change that value so it will snap to a different like grid timing or completely off, but you can snap to a 32 grid, 16, 8. There's a bunch of different modes in here that you can play around with. And if we go to the very end, I just want to talk very quickly about shuffle, and you have shuffle 8 and shuffle 16. This still tries to snap to a grid. However, with Control 3 here, we can change the kind of amount of how much we kind of shuffle it off the grid a little bit to apply some like swing to our drums. And if we use like a minus amount, and I tend to use this sparingly, but a small minus number will mean it will snap just slightly before the grid, and a small plus number will snap just slightly later on the grid, so you can make it lazy or ahead of time. So experiment with that because it's really good fun. Now we can go to grid 16. We'll just keep it in a very basic mode for doing our first pattern. If we do shift here, we can change the time signature with Control 2. So if I want to do something other than 4/4, this is the place I can do it. I'm going to leave it at 4/4 for now. And if you want to adjust your metronome volume, you can do it inside of here. So if it's too quiet, too loud, you can adjust it. One other thing you can do is change the recording mode, and we have this remain button here. I'm going to record in real time, but if we hit remain, we could switch it to the pattern sequencer here, and I'm going to make a whole episode on TR record mode, so we're not going to get into that just now. We'll hit remain again, go back to real time recording. Now we're all set up and it's waiting for us to record. We have our record button just flashing saying let's go. I can hit this. Nothing is going to happen because I have it set, so press pad to start. It's only going to start recording once I start playing my pads, which is what I want. If you set a count-in measure, when you press record, it's going to count down whatever the measure was, like 1 bar or 2 bars, and begin recording instantly. And you'll have to be ready to, play your pads and get going. We'll need to turn our metronome on now because we need something to record to, so Shift and 9. And our metronome is now on, and I'm just going to record in a very simple 2-bar pattern here. And I'm just going to take the volume down so I'm not talking over the drums. But as you can see, we are still recording, and you can see our pads going as it plays through our loop. Now, hopefully what you also noticed was that as I pressed each one of these pads, I create like an action, and each one of these actions is represented by one of these little blocks here. And what that allows us to do is undo some of our actions. So let's say we made a mistake in here and we want to undo a few steps. We can use Shift, Pattern Select and Undo here and actually undo some of these like building blocks. And if I undo quite a few of them and then play the volume again, all we can hear are our first two steps, our first two actions. Now, of course, if we want to completely undo that, we can just do Shift and undo the last two steps. That is really good for having some control over how you can erase a pattern and do that kind of thing. The other thing that you can do here, if we press record, just watch what happens on the screen. We go into rehearsal mode. So let's say we messed up our first pattern like we just did there. We decided to do undo and erase it. But we want to just have a little practice while the metronome's playing, play our pads again and just work out what we want to do. We can do that, and then as soon as we hit record again, we'll go back into recording mode. We can follow our measures here coming around, wait till the beginning of the bar and start recording again. So let's record something new in. Nice and basic stuff, but again, we've started to fill up some of our little action buckets, as somebody called them, and we could undo those. The other way that we can delete stuff out of a pattern here, which is really useful, is erase mode. And if we press delete while this is still going around here, you will notice that these pads are now blue. They're still flashing and showing us the sequence in which they're playing, but we can now delete individual elements. So let's say our kick and our snare were perfect, but what we didn't like was the hi-hats here in the middle. If I press and hold this down, it will erase as it's running through this loop. So if you want to try and time it and take out one like note, it is possible, but you can also hold this down and erase the entire two bars. So let's do that. So then we can erase just the hi-hats, and we could have done that with the snares or whatever else it is. And it is possible to check for the timing and just nip in and erase certain elements. It's a little bit tricky, but it is possible. So that is how you manipulate a pattern here and play around with it. If we want to take some elements out of it, erase things, we can still do that. When we're done recording a pattern, we just hit record again, and now our pattern is saved with our other patterns that we had before. So when we go back into pattern select, we can see our first pattern and the second one that we just created. Now, if you want to do some editing to that pattern, we make sure we've selected this one, and we can go into pattern edit. And we have a few options inside of this window where we can change the loop length. So let's say we only wanted 1 bar. We could use Control-3 here to shorten this down to 1 bar. If we press our menu here, we get some options. So if we want 4 bars instead of 2, we can duplicate this. We now have a 4-bar loop, and again, if we wanted to crop that in some kind of way, we can play around with it. We can change the BPM here with Control-1, so we can get a completely different BPM for it, and there's a few other things that we can do. So if we crop it down here, we could just say we only want 1 bar. We can hit the menu button again, and we can crop that and commit it to being like a 1-bar loop. So that's how you go into the edit mode as well, and we can play around with sort of making our pattern smaller and having some control over it there. The last thing I'm going to show you in this particular episode is how to delete a pattern. So if we come out again of here, let's just exit out, go to pattern select. These are our patterns. To delete one, very simple, press delete here. They will go this kind of pinky purple color. Choose the one you wish to delete, and as with all the delete functions inside of the SP-404, it gives you this second option, just a kind of safety net, to press delete again and commit to deleting that particular pattern. So we have now erased that, and we can build new patterns, save space, and move things around. So there you go. That is how you would build a pattern, come in, edit it, remove some unnecessary items, play around with the timing, set it up with all your record mode, and set your count in and your metronome. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Take care.